So we're sitting there, and I keep seeing something coming up the creek bank. It looks kind of like a fog, but it's like somebody walking, and it's got a kind of like a human shape, but it's a fog. And it's walking up the creek bank toward us. And I let it get fairly close, and I fired my Chevelle up, and I got out of there.
A Kodega is a guide and a storyteller, escorting you through the night, lighting the way, warding off thieves, ghosts, demons, and other oddities. Along the journey, his companions would often share with him the most curious of stories that he'd record in his codex. Perhaps you just might find yourself traveling with a Kodega and sharing one of yours. Click that like.
Yeah!
If you're new here, subscribe and have the bell hit for notifications to stay up to date on all of the new content. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. It's Rai Voss here, your guide to Kodega's Codex of Curiosities. Today we are having on, or I guess I am having on, Dewey Edwards. Little background about Dewey. Dewey was born and raised in Robertson County, Tennessee. He's married to his childhood sweetheart, Dolores, for 52 years. They have 3 daughters, 5 grandchildren, and Dewey has been a paranormal investigator for over 40 years, and he's the founder of Cryptids and Critters Paranormal a researcher. He's the author of 10 books, and we're going to jump into some of those tonight, possibly 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock high, and then also something wicked as well. Dewey enjoys writing ghost hunting, building his own research tech, and many, many more things. So I'm looking forward to having Dewey on tonight. Also, something new with Kodega's Codex of Curiosities, other than all that dogs barking and vehicles driving by as usual. I've opened a store. So if you are interested in any merchandise, I have made a little advertisement so you get a little taste of what you can find. So without further ado, I'm going to jump to the commercial that's showing all the products that I'm now featuring in my store, with the link will be down below. All right. Without further ado, I'm going to bring Dewey on. Seems to be a bit of a crazy night here on this rooftop here, and cars and dogs are just going crazy. So let's bring Dewey on. Dewey, welcome to Kodega's Codex of Curiosities. I'm having a little bit of a crazy night here. Lots of traffic. Normally it's never this crazy, and the dogs are going bananas, but welcome.
Glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes, I know. We've been talking for a while. I've been wanting to get you on for quite a while, but had a little bit of issues there, and but everything's back on track, and I'm glad to have here. I know you've shared one of your books with me, 12 o'clock high, and I have not finished it. I started into it, but I have not finished it, and it is very intriguing. So why don't you tell our listeners and our viewers a little bit, I kind of give them a little bit of a rundown, but why don't you just wrap it up, do it a little better than I can, and then also tell them where they can find you as well.
Okay. I said, my name is Dewey Edwards. I I have a YouTube channel, Deuster's Paranormal Research and Development. That's where I build my own tech and stuff like that. Also have a Facebook page, Cryptids and Critters Paranormal. I have written 10 books, ranging anywhere from early Robertson County murders on up to the latest one, 12 o'clock high, the Thomas Mantell Jr. UFO Chase. And before I get into that one, Small Town Monsters is doing a documentary on 12 o'clock high. In fact, we started recording a few weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
And we're going to wind it up, I think, at the Bigfoot conference in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, in end of July this year. And I'm going to meet him there. We're going to do a few more interviews on that and get that one wound up. But it should be a good one. It's going to be called Lost Contact. Is what it's going to be called.
Cool. That sounds.
He sent me a picture of it the other day.
Yeah, let's have a see. Let's have a look.
It's this is right up here.
Oh, I can't see all that. Let's. Oh, okay. There we are. Oh, that looks cool. I like it.
He's come up with a couple of 3 trailers.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually interviewed the 2 grandsons of Thomas Mantell.
Yeah.
I met them at the Thomas Mantell Day in Franklin, Kentucky. That's where the crash occurred at in July 7th. Not July, I'm sorry, January the 7th of 1948. And it was actually 6 months after the famous Roswell crash.
Yeah, I was thinking of like that is right around that date, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's that 6 months after, and everybody had UFOs on their mind or whatever, and the government really rushed in and tried to cover this up. He was supposed he went to in fact, let me start over. Captain Mantell was a World War II. He was a highly decorated pilot.
Okay.
He earned the Distinguished Flying Cross, I think 9 or 10 more medals. He flew on Normandy, D-Day, and he was instrumental in towing gliders to the landing site. His plane he was in was called Vulture's Delight. He'd run into heavy artillery fire, and the black more or less almost destroyed his plane. Took the whole tail section off of it, broke the control cables, caught it on fire, blew out the tail wheel.
Okay.
And then he's towing this glider with those men and stuff in it the whole time. He knows, I know he knows in his mind what's going to happen when he turns this glider loose, because he's using the drag of that glider to kind of keep his plane under control. So,
of course.
Anyway, he manages they drop the glider, and right on target, and he makes it back to base. It's 100 miles back to base, and he has to fight it tooth and nail to get it, to get the plane back.
Wow.
But when he got back, they looked at the plane and declared it was a complete loss and unflyable. So, but anyway, he got the Distinguished Flying Cross for that. He loved to fly. He was born in Franklin, Kentucky, which is odd, which is the town he died in, but he never lived there.
Oh, really?
He was in Franklin twice during his life, when he was born and then when he died. His parents were visiting friends. They lived up almost a little bit north of Franklin, and they were visiting friends. His family was, and his mother went into labor. And they went to the nearest hospital, which was in Franklin, Kentucky, and that's where he was born the next morning. And he loved flying. He had little model planes hanging off the off the ceiling of his room and things like that.
Yeah.
He joined he got into the Air Corps. That's where that's where he served overseas. When he got out, he opened his own flying school.
Okay.
He was stationed all over the different places in the United States, Texas, and everywhere else. And anyway, he formed his own. He did his own flight school when he got out, and it still wasn't enough. He stayed busy, shuttling people around and hauling equipment and stuff. But he wasn't real happy, so he found out when they formed the Kentucky Air National Guard, he was one of the first ones to sign up. He got to keep his captain's rank, and it was going pretty good. They he flew a P-51D Mustang, which was every American boy's dream of flying. They were sent on it was January the 6th of 1948. They sent them down to Georgia to ferry 4 P-51 Mustangs back to Louisville, Kentucky. And they were had been stranded there for several days. The planes had for about a month, I think, and they sent them down to pick them up. They took a C-47 down with several engineers and four pilots total to bring those planes back. And I haven't figured out yet if they were actually assigned to those planes or if they just randomly went down and picked those 4 planes up. But there was only one of them equipped with oxygen, and he didn't have that one. I think everything would have been a lot different if it had been.
Oh, okay.
That in just a minute. But anyway, they flying back on, like I said, January the 7th, 1948. They were flying back to Louisville, Kentucky. And in the meantime, they're seeing all these UFOs all over Kentucky, Ohio, Illinois, everywhere, And the police were overwhelmed with calls, people, reporting these things. So they got a hold of, I think it was Godman Field, and told them to, see what they could find out. So they happened to they seen one from a flight tower at Godman Field, and they were trying to identify it. They had 4 generals and several colonels and several higher ups looking through field glasses trying to identify what this thing is. And they described it as being like an upside down ice cream cone with a red tip with a green gas coming out of it.
Really? That's really unique kind of shape.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, the general is going to dispatch some planes to go check it out. But in the meantime, Captain Mantell and his 3 wingmen, they show up. They're flying over. So they kind of diverted them to that. Well, one of them was low on gas, so he went back to Louisville, Kentucky, to the base. Mantell and 2 of his wingmen went after this. Mantell had the fastest plane. He had this, like I said, P-51D Mustang. It was a big upgrade from the P-51C. This one had 6 machine guns instead of 4. It had a lot more horsepower. It had the Rolls-Royce Packard Merlin engine that had developed a little over 1 horsepower per cubic inch. It was 1,600 cubic inch engine.
Oh wow!
And but anyway, they took off after it, and the wingman had trouble keeping up with him. He was outdistancing him for some reason. He had the fastest plane, evidently, and he got close to it and said that he described it as being metallic looking. It was above him. It was traveling, I think he said, half his speed, and then suddenly it shot up to, and he said he was actually going faster than he was. The P-51 Mustang would travel, I think, a little over 400 mile per hour, 440 something mile per hour, I think was top speed, and he couldn't catch this weather balloon. And act like it was trying to. That's what they said was a weather balloon. But anyway,
of course.
Yeah. But anyway, he couldn't catch. He had trouble catching. He had trouble catching up with it. So finally, he got up high and was going to try to intercept it. And his 2 wingmen, they turned back, and we don't know. There was no radio communications recorded back then, so we don't know what all was said on the radio. There was 3 different radio channels used. A, B, and C channels were used, and nobody actually got to hear what all took place between the plane-to-plane talk or the plane, to tower talk. But anyway, he said that when he got close enough to it, he says it was one of his transmissions was, "Oh my God, this thing is large. I see observation windows, and I can see people in this thing." But
wow,
he went up to about. They said about 30,000 feet. The P-51 Mustang was only rated for 40,000 feet, I think was the top. And that's if you had oxygen. He didn't have oxygen in it. One of his wingmen did, but he didn't. So anyway, the people on the ground in Franklin actually, well, someone witnessed it. In fact, I've talked to 3 of the witnesses. They were young children. I think they were 4, 6, and 7 years old, and they saw this plane coming down. They're gonna be in our documentary too. So they anyway, it crashed on a little farm right outside of Franklin, and I drove by that crash site for years working up there, and I didn't realize it even happened there, And I just happened to see they put a memorial marker up, beside the road close to where it happened at.
Yeah.
And I got to reading that, and I thought I need to check into that. So sure enough, I got interested in it. They had Thomas Mantell, Captain Thomas Jr. Mantell Day at Franklin, Kentucky, year before last, and I went to it and got to meet one of his grandsons, and we just hit it off right off the bat. I'd been doing a lot of work on it already. The first book I come out with about it was Eye in the Sky, and that has half of that book is dedicated strictly to the Thomas Mantell incident. I've got a few things, the L.A., the Los Angeles,
Oh yeah, battle over
in
LA.
there, the
battle for
Washington
LA.
D.C. There are several different UFO encounters that's in that. So anyway, back to Thomas Mantell. Anyway, he's they said he went up too high, and then one of them saw his puff of smoke come out of the plane, and then it started spiraling down. There was every newspaper report I have read said the plane exploded. Exploded in midair. I know for a fact that plane did not explode.
Okay.
What they heard was either one of 2 things, or maybe 2 things. When he's coming down in free air, of course, he's already passed out. He went passed out without oxygen.
Yeah.
He comes crashing toward the ground, and I guess he's leaning over the throttle, got the throttle wide open, and he's coming down in a straight nosedive, and the engine is only rated 3,000 RPM. That's all the engine was rated for. So anyway, I think what they heard, the explosion they heard, was either him breaking the sound barrier, it was a sonic boom, or the engine exploding. I know for a fact the engine was not running when he hit the ground, because the way the prop ended up, it kind of landed on its side off in a little clearing, and you picture the prop. You got 4 blades on it. You figure one at 12 o'clock, one at 6, and one at 3, and one at 9. The one at 12 o'clock and the one at 6 o'clock were still intact, attached to the dome.
So they weren't. So it wasn't spinning then, of course.
Right, and they broke off on impact. So there was nothing moving or spinning when he hit the ground. I went to the crash site. I've been there several times. But the first time I was there, you talking about being emotional. I mean, it tore me up. I couldn't, I just sat there in the truck and just cried for a long time. I just couldn't stand it. I've got so close to him, doing all this research on him, I've found every picture I could find, every newspaper article, everything I could possibly find. I guess it's probably one of the most comprehensive studies of Mantell that was ever done. That's what his grandsons told me. Oh. But anyway, he hit the ground, and like I said, there was 3 witnesses. Well, there's a lot more witnesses than that, but 3 witnesses surviving today that saw it. They were actually, some of them were stripping tobacco in a little barn over close by where he crashed at. And, but anyway, he hit the ground. They said that somebody got there pretty quick when he crashed, pulled it, and got him out of the plane. Of course, he was already passed away. They said his body was nothing but mush. The only thing holding him together was his flight suit.
Really?
But see, what the weird part was, there was not a drop of blood anywhere in the cockpit, and that's the weird part. The canopy come off because he's coming down. It's in a spiral. The plane comes apart in midair. The fuel tank comes out of the back. It's back behind the cockpit. That fuel tank comes out. The tail section breaks off at about 10,000 feet from the ground, and it lands in a field beside where he crashes at. And there was pieces of the plane scattered all over the place. In fact, the tail section never was recovered. It was left there where it was at, and some college kids come along and got it and took it back to college with them. And we're trying to find it, but who knows whatever happened. And I'd love to find that. There was a rumor that it was radioactive. In fact, I took my Geiger counter up to the History Center. They have a small piece of the plane up there, about a 6-inch circle of the aluminum off side of his plane, and it's in a display case. It's probably about a foot, maybe a foot and a half deep into the display case, and about that far from the top. And I took my Geiger counter in and got to let it stabilize and all. And I was getting maybe a 3, maybe a 4 count there in the History Center by itself. But I put it up against the glass where his thing was at, and it went up to 68 counts. And may went even higher before that. I mean, it's not dangerous, but it's enough to let you know there's some radiation involved. Yeah, and that's what we're trying to figure out. A friend of mine up there at the History Center, and I went up there one day and he runs the ground penetrating radar, and we took it up there and and we found the exact spot where the crash was. There was a ditch there about 3 feet deep that when they got the plane up, they just pushed everything else in the point they couldn't put on the truck. They just pushed in a pile and bulldozed over it. We do have permission from the landowners to do an archaeological dig. Like I said, it's 3 feet deep. It's going to take equipment to do that. I'm not going to try it with a shovel.
It's going to take a while.
I turn 72 years old tomorrow. I'm not going to be doing any digging with a shovel.
You know? Yeah, it'll take a little bit of effort. 3 feet isn't that bad if you're just doing one small hole, but this is a large area. Yeah.
But we took the metal detector up there, and we had probably 200 flags all over that field where it'll pick up something.
Yeah,
and of course, the people that were on the place, they weren't home at the time, and we didn't want to do any digging until we got permission from them.
Of course.
But, they came back home later on, and we talked to them, and they're gonna let us do a dig up there. We're waiting on some fair weather now. We've been getting rain every week, just about. And we're gonna do a dig up there.
Now, I got to ask though, did you take your Geiger counter there as well and check that area?
I took it. It didn't go up. I think 30 was about as high as I got.
Okay. But, if it's all, perhaps if it's covered,
it's pretty much covered. Yeah. And, but they found a piece of his skull back behind the little barn there. And we were actually able to find the tracks. They carried 2 trucks in.
Okay.
To haul this plane out on. And we found and they got stuck in the field, of course. It was in the wintertime. And they got marred up in the field. We found the tracks that actually trucks left with the ground penetrating radar. We found them.
Okay.
We found a section where they had to take the section of fence out to get out on the road. And we found all that with the ground penetrating radars. We got everything marked real good. We're just waiting on fair weather to go up and do that. There was several reports.
I just have a quick question. The ground penetrating radar, I've heard a lot about it, but what kind of visuals do you get? Do you actually have like a screen that kind of shows you
he had a tablet attached to it, or a laptop. And it shows I'm not that familiar with how they work or whatever, but you could definitely see there was an impression there. He was showing it to me, and I had trouble reading it myself, but he's done it so long, he knows what he's looking at. And but there was reports, that it was radioactive. And one thing that kind of got me thinking about it too was there was 2 reports, and one of them said that he was buried in a lead-lined coffin. Now that tells me something radiation right there. They said it was a common practice back then as far as anything to do with an unidentified flying object or whatever.
Oh, okay.
In a lead-lined coffin.
Interesting.
Because of radiation. Another report says he was not buried. He was actually put in a cold storage for future evaluation.
Wow.
So that may be why they put lead in the coffin, to put some weight to it, or to keep anybody from actually X-raying anything. I don't know. It's weird. There's a lot of
Now, where is
Yeah.
he then allegedly? So he's alleged. Where is he allegedly buried then?
He's buried in the National Cemetery in Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of what the name of it was, but yeah, it's a national cemetery there.
Mm-hmm.
He but the I won't say now. But anyway, he the undertaker was one that it's supposed to have done a autopsy on him. I'm having trouble finding those reports. I went and talked to the coroner there in Simpson County, Kentucky, hoping he may have had it, and he didn't have anything on it. But everything was covered up. As soon as the word got back to Louisville that he had crashed, they dispatched a crew down there to do a preliminary investigation. I think what they were doing was trying to cover stuff up, because the guy that actually does the actual investigations was notified until 24 hours later.
Oh wow!
After this crew had left, so I don't know. And
there's always these things happening. There's always these things happening where it's just like, oh, we didn't call him, or you try to find the reports and they've disappeared, and conveniently.
Yeah, I found what part of the Blue Book files actually still exist on it. When they reopened, when they first started Project Blue Book, that was one of the first cases they went back to look at, and the most of the paper documents had been destroyed and had been microfilmed, but kind of oddly, the microfilm had been damaged. Somebody had spilled something on the microfilm and damaged it too. So it's a lot of questions will never be answered.
Exactly. Wow.
But it was what they're saying it was to start with was he was chasing Venus. And that went on. I think Professor Hynek was the one that come up with that. And then I think he just
sorry
about 3 or 4 years later.
So sorry. So you said chasing Venus?
Yeah, he was chasing Venus. What they said.
Well, he was the planet Venus. That's what he saw.
Venus.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah, and then that didn't hold up. So we got to come up with something else now. So then, we got this this top secret weather balloon called Skyhook, and it was a new deal. Nobody knew anything about it. It was a big balloon, but they actually only pressurized it a small amount with helium, or hydrogen, and as it went up in the atmosphere, it would get larger and larger, But that's what they said he was chasing. Yeah, finally, and that's still standing today is what they're saying it is, but I don't believe it. And cover up.
No,
I think he actually saw a UFO. I mean, this guy.
I think that sometimes the stories they come up with or create are more outrageous than the actual truth. It's like, first he's chasing Venus. What? Are you kidding me? Like Venus, is Venus in our atmosphere? Is there something you're not telling us?
Yeah. But this thing had been seen all over, like I said, all over Kentucky. Had been seen up in Illinois, Ohio, several different states. These UFOs had been seen in. I mean, it was just randomly, just here and there, and a few of the, especially around a few of the bases. There was I read one interesting article that's talking about that a lot of times if a military installation or something has some kind of drills or some aerial drills, stuff like that these UFOs are, I guess they come and check them out, I guess, or whatever, But anyway, the same day, Fort Campbell, Kentucky, which is probably maybe 75 miles as a crow flies from Franklin, if that far, they were having drills that day too, So, but I don't know. It's crazy. It is crazy.
And so what do you think happened to him? So you believe that he did run out of oxygen, like that he went unconscious from lack of oxygen?
I'm pretty much believe it. He didn't have oxygen. It was actually during peacetime.
Yeah.
The mission they were on was a low altitude mission.
Okay.
And they didn't really require oxygen. Like I said, one of them was equipped with oxygen. He had what they call a bailout tank.
Okay.
It's what they call a small tank. He actually went back to base and got a new oxygen tank and headed back to look for Captain Mantell to see if they could find anything. They couldn't find the object and couldn't find Captain Mantell either. And when he got back to base, he found out that he had crashed, outside of Franklin, and
Jeez.
had
And I have a question. Did those were those? I know you said the planes had 6 machine guns, but were they equipped with ammunition?
See, that's another question. That's what I'm hoping that this archaeological dig will prove. Maybe the machine guns were in the wings, had 3 in each wing, and the earlier planes had them mounted closer inboard, and then they had to kind of time them with the prop to keep them shooting the prop off the plane. Well, the P-51D, they had added one more machine gun to each wing and had spaced them out further outside the prop radius, so they could fire at any time. Now there was a captain. I wasn't captain, a sergeant. Sergeant Blackwell was in the tower that day. He was a tech sergeant in the tower, and he says that he heard him call for hot guns, which means he wanted his guns loaded, and I think they were maybe already loaded, but they just didn't have permission to fire them, because it was peacetime,
Yeah.
And but he swears. Of course, there was a show on Sightings, I think it was, back several years ago, and they interviewed the Mantell family. Got with Sergeant Blackwell, and he told them what his last words were and everything about seeing people in it and calling for hot guns, and he says that he don't think that Captain Mantell was suffering from anoxia, because he said he had worked with several pilots that had, and said, and Mantell was not showing any of those symptoms at all, but that he went, he went up 20 something thousand. I'm going to say 25,000 feet. And I think that's where he blacked out. But then when he leaned forward, fell over the controls, he was trimmed to climb at a high rate. Well, he climbed up to 30,000 feet, and then the plane more or less just a lack of oxygen or whatever kind of leveled itself off. And that's when it went into a spiral and come down, So I'm pretty sure he did die from lack of oxygen, but that's my belief. It's hard to say.
It's hard to say. I think that's a good educated, we'll say, guess, because it's tough to say.
Right.
And here's a question. So at what altitude do you require oxygen? Is oxygen needed at?
I think they said anything over 15,000 feet. I think after that they came out with a ruling or whatever that any pilot that goes above, I think 15,000 feet would require oxygen after that,
Okay.
And they also equipped all the planes with oxygen after that, A lot of good things come out of this,
Fair enough.
The guy that got there first to do the investigation, he walked up the door, knocked on the door, and the lady that owned the house, Mrs. Williams, she came to the door, and she asked, and so he was there to investigate the crash, what they were going to be doing, all that kind of stuff. And she says, "Well, what made him crash?" And the first thing he said was he went too high and ran out of oxygen. Now, this is before he got to investigate anything, So he must have heard something or developed this in his mind on the way down there,
Yeah, have a reasonable explanation and not like, oh, he was chasing a UFO and they got into a dogfight of sorts. But no, not at all. It's kind of wow.
I've got several pictures in my book of the crash site.
Yeah,
things like that, and it was kind of landed on its side, and I see, he was they said it broke every bone in his body was just like mush. I mean, and his cause of death on his death certificate, dislocation of brain.
What?
I mean, and they said anytime you have a hard crash like that or something, your spinal cord will disconnect from your brain,
Okay.
Hard, and that's what they give it as. It didn't say aircraft crash or anything like that. It's dislocation of brain, So
that's quite an eerie, prognosis or diagnosis, or like kind of cause of death. Wow, that is crazy. Now
they ended up taking the plane to Wright-Patterson.
Okay.
and up in Dayton, Ohio. And I would love to go up there as if I could see that plane, if they even still have it. I don't know, but anything that had to do with a UFO or whatever was taken to Wright-Patterson. Everything. So that kind of tells me there was a lot more involved in it.
Of course. Really, really fascinating account here. Now, you had said there's a couple trailers already made for the documentary.
Right.
If you have them, if they're able to share them, we can put them on, at the end of this interview.
Okay,
If you want,
yeah,
you can share them later, and we'll put them on. So everybody who's watching this, stay tuned for the trailer at the end of the program. I'll put it on there at the end. So no worries. Excellent. So that's one of the 10 books. What is there any other ones that stick out to you? I know I had mentioned one earlier, but is there any one for you that, other than 12 O'Clock High, you seem to be very emotionally and just really invested into that, and it's an amazing story. Is there any other one that maybe has grasped your attention almost as much?
Yeah, like I said, Eye in the Sky was what got me started on the Mantell part of it, plus the UFOs. It's several UFO encounters in it, the Hill abduction,
Yes.
all that, a lot of them are in it. Several. I think there's probably 15 or 20 probably different, encounter stuff in it,
Yeah.
And I can't think of their names right off the bat.
Barney,
Pascagoula, Mississippi.
Okay, yeah. So Barney and Betty Hill, of course, and then there's
Barney
other ones.
Betty Hill.
Yeah.
Well, Travis.
Travis. Yeah, I not Travis Scott. That's not.
There were several things I've got in the book. Several encounters like that.
Yeah.
The like I said, the Los Angeles battle.
Yeah, it was Travis Scott. It was, or Travis Walton.
Travis Walton. Yeah, Travis Walton.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
My mind skipped a beat there for a minute. As you get older, it does that. My favorite, I'm gonna say my books is The Bell Witch, Something Wicked.
Okay.
Oh, and while I'm thinking about it, all my books are available on Amazon. You can do a search on my name. And I also have a few of them scattered out local around my home county, Springfield.
Mm-hmm.
And I also maintain an inventory here at my house. So if somebody wanted a copy and wanted it signed, well, then just my email is ghosthunter911 at gmail.com. And you can shoot me an email and I'll make sure you get one.
Oh, that is awesome. That is awesome. And we'll make sure we put all this information in the show notes too, so that everybody can find you, get a signed copy, because those are always better. They're a little more personalized.
Oh yeah. They well, microphone done fell. Hang on a second. The Bell Witch book, Something Wicked. That's something that I've always been interested in.
Mm-hmm.
I said I just live just probably 12 miles or something like that from where all this happened at. I have been to the John Cemetery several times, and that we had a few little weird things that went on. The last time we were there, I took a guy with me, and he wanted to. We filmed a little small documentary, and we were standing there talking, and he was. And we went to the old schoolhouse first, the old cabin that was part of the old John Bell cabin. We went to the cabin. We're sitting there talking. Everything worked great. We got on my side by side and rode over to the cemetery, which is way back in a little secluded area. It's hard to get to. And it's on private property, so it takes special permission to even go back, But I got a few connections there, so I can go back.
Perfect.
Back to Joel Bell, the youngest one, he married my great grandfather's daughter. So I got a family connection there too.
You do have it. Yes, exactly.
So anyway, we were back there and we couldn't get the audio working. The camera worked great and all, but the audio would not work. They had the little wireless microphones, and they kept changing frequencies. They would not match up,
Mm-hmm.
And So I was standing there talking to him, when he was trying to get the sound working. And I just took my walking stick and just pecked on the side of a tree there right beside the cemetery, right beside the tombstone.
Yeah.
And it made a hollow sound. I mean, it made a good tree knock. I'll put it that way. So
Really?
I hit it a couple of times, we were talking about the sound it made, And
Yeah.
at that time we hear this whoop, whoop, comes out 4 times, come out of the woods back behind us. There's no road back there. And it couldn't have been a police car or anything, an ambulance or anything, because there's no roads back in there. It's way dense woods back in there.
That's
So I looked over at
interesting.
Rick, and he looked at me, and I said, "Is that what I think it was?" He said, "Yeah, I believe it was." He said, "Let's get wound up here and get out of here." So we did. We got the microphones to working, and we did our little thing, and we did, I think, 3 different segments. I think, and a little filming, and we got out of there. But it was kind of interesting. But but everybody, a lot of people have did books on the Bell Witch. I did mine a little bit differently. Mine's got a history lesson that comes along because I'm a historian. I love history, and there were several things that occurred. We had the Great Comet that appeared in the sky in 1810, 1811, and everybody took it as an omen of something bad coming. And sure enough, it did. December 1811, we had the Great Earthquake. That caused it formed Reelfoot Lake in West Tennessee.
Yeah.
It rang church bells in Boston, Massachusetts. It centered in the New Madrid Fault, is where it was at in Missouri, and we had that to happen, And then the next year we had a volcano erupted in Indonesia, and it spewed enough ash into the air it blocked out the sun. Millions of people died worldwide over that. I mean, people starved to death, and froze to death, and but anyway, and then that caused all that ash and everything caused the next year to be the year without a summer, which is 1816, year without a summer. And we had ice and snow on the ground here in June and July, and we didn't even have a summer that year. And the people got greedy and sold their corn crops. I think he got like $10 a bushel, which was an astronomical price back in that day. And they didn't have seed corn for the corn next year to plant. And it went there. And then the next year is when the Bell Witch appeared, 1817. So I'm thinking a lot of this stuff we had the Great Revival and all that kind of stuff too. So I'm thinking all the combination of that is what kind of influenced what brought the Bell Witch.
Okay. Yeah, there's an accumulation of all this crazy stuff. Yes.
Oh, it is. Yeah, that was the first cryptid sighting ever we know about in Robertson County. Was John Bell had his boys with him, and they went up to check on the corn crop, and he carried his rifle with him in case he run upon some game or something. But anyway, he's seen this big black dog in a corner of the cornfield, but it had a rabbit's head. Had the head of a rabbit, but the body of a dog.
Really?
And he shot at it. And
Yeah.
actually, he was a pretty good shot, but I reckon the bullet, whatever it went through this thing, whatever it was, and never harmed it. It disappeared in a flash of smoke,
Okay.
and it was gone. And he went over and looked and see if he could find any hair, blood, or anything. And all he could find was where the hole that the bullet had made going into the ground,
Okay.
But that was the first one. Then there were several big, large birds that they described as vultures. They used to torment the kids, chase them, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It had supposed to have big. I think it said a wingspan of something like 10, 12 feet, maybe, and had glowing red eyes and all this kind of stuff. So that's some of the weird
glowing
stuff.
red eyes. Those glowing red eyes seem to go with a lot of cryptids.
Yeah, I don't know how much of it's true. I don't know. I wasn't there, but it was I do know they were. Yeah, the book, the Bell Witch, the original Bell Witch book was published 40 years after the fact. It was written to sell to a newspaper publisher, which was M.V. Ingram. who was going to put it into a book and sell it. So who knows how much of it's true? I wasn't alive back then. I don't know. There's a lot of people around Adams that still believe it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if it happened or not. I don't know. It could be all a bunk. I don't have no idea. But
No,
it
exactly.
makes. I did a lot of research on it and things like that. Like I said, I had a family connection with it.
Yeah.
The first book I did was Execution of Murder, which is the early murder cases of Robertson County, 1810 through 1910. And
yeah, you're saying you're a bit of a historian, right? So
I did. I've got
right
I've got 25 years invested in that one book.
Wow.
Just that one book. I went back and forth to the archives, pulling out the court records and things like it, going through all the court minute books, one page at a time, and making notes and things like that, And my father told me back while I was growing up that his grandfather had killed his brother-in-law, and I was wanting to find out if it would happen or not, So that's what I started out looking for, these murder cases and all. And I had no idea what year it was or anything. That kind of got me started on doing my research on that. And as I got to reading through these books, a page at a time, I thought, this is some neat stuff in here, So I started making a few notes, and all. The next thing I know, I'm going back every day, just about. I'm working second shift, so I'm going down there of a morning and spending up to about time to go to work. And I'll leave there and go to work. But I have my notes and all. I'd come back home and type it up and things like that. But it was very interesting.
That definitely sounds like a lot of work. A lot of work.
Yeah, the Bell Witch book was the second book that I'd published. My wife and I, we're paranormal investigators. We've been to several places with people. We don't really actually go to none of these commercial places,
Okay.
Because I feel like they've got all kind of time to put things back in the walls and speakers and make noises and stuff. I mean, things under the house and things, So we more.
I never thought of that actually.
Going in their house, and we'll go help them with that.
Yeah,
and we've been to several of those. I've been told to get out. I didn't actually hear it until I got back to the house and listened to my tape recorder. I usually just set the tape up. I'll ask a few questions and things like that, But this thing told me, said, "Go home." It told me 3 times,
Really?
Yeah. And this guy that I reckon that actually died in the house, and his wife did too. He told me his name, how old he was, all that kind of stuff. And I went to the cemetery, and sure enough, the dates and name matched up. Where he's buried at, which is a little ways from my house.
So Dewey, what got you into the paranormal then?
I had my first paranormal experience when I was 5 years old.
Oh, that's quite a young age.
My uncle got he had a tractor turned over on him and killed him.
Okay.
And of course, it was in November. Well, the next year, my cousins and everybody would come over and help my father, with the crops and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
And they showed up one day. I think they were cutting tobacco, I think. And one of my cousins showed up, didn't have a cap, it was hot that day. The sun was shining bright, and Mama was afraid that he'd get sunburned. His head would get sunburned or get blistered, So she told me, says, run up to the house and get Uncle John's hat. It's there in the closet, and let Pete wear it, to keep his head from getting sunburned, And so I went to get it. I walked in the house and opened the door up. There's a little door there in between the kitchen and the main room, the living room, and opened the little closet door up, and it snatched plumb out of my hand and slammed back shut. And there was no wind blowing or anything. And this little door, just a little plain little wooden door with just regular hinges, no latch or anything on it. So anyway, it slammed shut. So I thought, well, it was the wind, I didn't think much about it. So I opened it up, reached back in to get the cap, and it slammed shut and actually caught my arm, And I got my arm out, and I went running back down to the tobacco patch and told Mom, I said, hey, if Pete wants a hat, let him go get his own, or he can go up there and get it one or the other. And then when I was 11, I saw my first full body apparition. And we were the old house. We lived in this old rental house, and the back part of the house had no heat in it at all. And there was a big old, I call them a warm morning stove in the kitchen. And that's what we used to heat the house with. Well, we kept all the doors open where we get some heat. And me and my brother, we slept back in the back room. And I woke up, jumped awake one night and just happened to look over there, and there's just a girl standing over there, right inside my sister's bedroom next door. And but I could tell it wasn't right. You could see through her. And she's like a smoky image, She was standing at a window, and the windows were open, and the curtains were blowing in the wind. Her hair was blowing in the wind, and so was her gown, But she just standing there, just like she's gazing outside, and just like the moonlight was shining down, illuminating her, And I'm not even sure if I see my moon out that night, to tell you the truth. But anyway, I woke my brother up, I said, hey, look over here, And he woke up and he said, what? That's Joyce, was my sister. I said, no, it's not Joyce. That you can't see through a human, like that, that is not, So anyway, we covered our heads up under the cover, and then later on we looked and she was gone. But we went to woke Daddy up later on and said something to him about it. And the next day or two, the landlord would come down to check on. He would come down to the barn to check on his cattle. And Daddy asked him, said, "Did anything ever happen in that house?" And the guy said, "Well, no, nothing but it caught on fire one time." He says, I remembered I was a little boy and they wouldn't let me go in the house, but they had me drawing water out of the cistern, water buckets out of the cistern, and handing them up, to his uncle who was throwing them on the fire. He said, "Yes," says, my aunt burned up in that house that night. So,
and
that was
really?
the back part of the house. She said the back part of the house had been rebuilt.
Yeah.
And that was the crazy part. The window she was standing at, there wasn't a window there in the house. Even the window was a ghost.
Oh, really?
It was all a residual, evidently,
Wow.
And
that's fascinating.
I talked to several people that lived there before we did and after we did, and nobody had ever seen a thing in the house, nothing whatsoever. So I don't know if we just happened to be in the right place at the right time, maybe on the anniversary of the fire, maybe, It
could have been. And then, like but your brother confirmed it for you as well, too.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's interesting.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It was wild. And that's when it kind of got me started into it. And then we had I kind of got out of it for a while. And then of course I got out of school and everything, and more or less concentrating on, work at a public job, and keeping gas in my car and stuff like that. And a friend of mine, went to this little restaurant one day, and a friend of mine said, "We need to go up to 31W and look for this headless woman." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Oh," I said, "Yeah, this woman had a car wreck up there, and it cut her head off. And the road was flooded, and she run off in the river, and it some way or other her head her head got cut off, and she said they found her body in the car, but they never could find her head, and she roams the creek banks looking for her head, and we park on this little bridge, It's an old stone arch bridge built, probably back before the Civil War, probably back in the early 1800s. And we'd park on it. And they said, as long as you stay on the bridge, she can't bother you. And I says, "Well, you say that, but does she know that?" How do you know this?
Yeah. It's written in the rule book. It's written in the rule book. Yeah.
So we're sitting there, and I keep seeing something coming up the creek bank. It looks kind of like a fog, but it's like somebody walking, and it's got a kind of like a human shape, but it's a fog. And it's walking up the creek bank toward us, And I let it get fairly close, and I fired my Chevelle up, and I got out of there. It had a built 396 in it, fully built. I burnt rubber all the way across that bridge getting out of there. So the next weekend,
I would too.
with a combination of a few beers in us. We kind of got a little brave, and we sat there a little while, and she let her get a little bit closer, but I still didn't let her come up on the bridge, So I got some going in too. But then me and my wife got back into it after that, That's another book I wrote. Ghostly Whispers is our life of ghost hunting, starting from our early encounters,
Yep.
And in fact, the house I live in now is haunted. There's at least three. I know there's three people here. The man that built the house, he's still here. I
Yep.
see him outside in the yard every once in a while. Never seen him in the house. He's always outside. Of course, he was a farmer. His wife, we see her pretty regular, probably 3 or 4 times a month, probably here in the house. We just see an image of somebody walking by across the hallway in a gray house coat, hair's, and I was building onto the house when I built onto my house. That's when they really get
You
stirred up,
agitate it. Yeah.
remodeling, things like that. Well, I had a garage built on, and I wanted it connected to the house. But the people that build it, the way the roof lines and all were made, they wouldn't guarantee, it would work right. So I had them build the garage separate from my house, and then I built a connecting room between them.
Okay.
And while I was building that room, I was kind of sending pictures out to my daughters and all, showing them the progress we had made and things like that. And I went out and made a picture of it, and I got the front of the house done. I had the shutters put on and all that kind of stuff. And when I made a picture and come back in, and I got to look and thought, what is that in that window? And of course, you can get all kind of anomalies, looking pictures, taking photos, through glass or whatever. But I zoomed in on it. There was this gray-headed lady standing there looking at me. She's got glasses on. I can see her hair. And right in front of her is this little girl. And this woman's got her hands on the girl's shoulder, and the little girl's got her head caught kind of sideways like that, looking out the window at me. She's got a bonnet on. You can see the bonnet and everything.
Really?
And, so I jumped up and running there real quick. Look, which is the next room where my computer room is now, and there was not a soul at all in there, nothing whatsoever. But the little girl, I don't know who she is. The only girl I know they ever had, this couple had, she's still alive. She lives in Florida. And, but she sent me a picture of her mother, and that's exactly the woman that was in that. I seen in the window.
Do you think maybe the little girl is like a residual of the lady that's living right now?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. It's crazy. But the little girl, she's pretty vocal on occasion. She has something has called my name out several times. I was sitting here in my computer one day, and my wife had her computer room set up in the other bedroom, and I was sitting here just filming with the computer, and I hear this voice, and it says, "Mama," and it's a little girl, little girl's voice, So I didn't think much about that. Just hearing things, So I ignored it. And then just a few minutes, it wasn't probably 3 or 4 minutes, it says, "Mama," in that tone of voice, And I just, I just said, so I said, "What?" Never got an answer, So I walked over and asked my wife, I says, "Did you say something?" She said, "No." That you didn't call out mama? She said, "No, why would I call out mama?" I said, "Well," her mother done passed away several years ago, She said, "Why would I call out mama?" But anyway, so well, something did. So that night I was laying on the couch watching TV and I fell asleep. Wife woke me up and says, "Did you hear that?" And I said, "No, I was asleep. I didn't hear anything." She said, "You didn't hear that little girl?" And I said, "No." She says, "This little girl just said, can't you see us? We're alive,
What? Really?
So and then I was sitting down there's a little dry creek that runs down beside our house, and every once in a while, if it gets a good little rain, it'll have water in it. And we went fishing one day, me and my granddaughters, and I picked up a rock there by the pond and skipped it. Well, she wanted to know how I made the rock. I think she was maybe 3 years old or something like that, and wanted me to show her how to skip rocks. So I said, "Well, I'll tell you what, we'll go back to the house," because all it was up around the field there was just besides that one flat rock that I found to skip, were just fill rocks. So I took her down to the little creek there beside the house, you know. I had a pile of rocks stacked up where I was showing her how to skip. And I didn't throw, she got pretty good at it. I didn't skip all the rocks I had. And we turned around and go back to the house. And something splashed in the water behind us. I thought, well, a limb fell off a tree or a snake fell out of the, something, just something, And I looked at Lily. I said, what was that? And she says, oh, that was my ghost friend. Said, she skipped a rock. And I said, really? She said, yes, she's my friend. I said, she's nice. But she says, that one, she pointed across the creek, says, now that one over there, she's not my friend. She's mean. And I said, really? I got her to describe her. And she described a little small girl with dark complexion, black hair, had on clothes. I'd best probably describe as maybe a Native American girl or something like that,
Okay.
She said, and her eyes are black, And I thought, okay, let's go on to the house.
Yeah. Time
went
to head in. Time to head in on that one. Jeez.
Yeah, but it's crazy. But both my granddaughters have said they have a ghost friend. They're in the house. Of course, they've outgrew it now,
Yeah.
Once they get 4 or 5 years old, they kind of outgrow it. But yeah, they had, both of them had ghost friends here in the house. So, in fact, last night I went in I was sitting in my recliner. Thought, well, it's time to take my medications before I go to bed. So I got up and walked in the bedroom. As soon as I walked in the door, this woman's voice says, uh-oh. And I looked back at my wife and said, what'd you say? She said, I didn't say nothing. And the only thing it sounded like we got these little Google, what you call them. But anyway,
like the Google Home kind of thing, or
it sounded like that Google voice, but I mean, I don't know why they would just say uh-oh, but I don't know. But we have all kind of crazy things going on around here, but all kind of crazy stuff. But I put all that in a book, and it's done fairly good. I guess one of my favorites is Season of the Critters. It's about Bigfoot, Dogman, a lot of mostly about the land between the lakes,
Yeah. We all know about the LBL.
Yeah, I've kind of backed away from LBL. There's just too much going on down there. There's too many people down there. There's been several people. Of course, you're not supposed to carry any kind of ammunition, weapons in there.
Yeah.
And there were some of them got in there a while back and was doing an investigation or whatever, and they were picked up. Of course, there's an area there called Empire Farms. It's on the LBL. It's still they still use it to store equipment and stuff in. It's not a working farm, but they use the buildings to store their tractors and things like that in. And they've got security cameras all around it. Well, there were couple of them were seen packing had a weapon in their hand, a pistol in their hand, so that kind of people. Then it was put on YouTube, and then I guess some of the Rangers or whatever saw it, I guess, from LBL, and they're kind of cracking down on, and I don't feel safe going in there unless I am packing. I mean,
fair enough. Yes.
But yeah, there's so many people there, that's doing it now, and a lot of them, every time they go down there, they see something. I have an encounter every time. I've been there probably 100 times, and I've seen one thing that may have been a big buzzard that come out of a tree. I don't know, and my wife and I heard this metallic scraping sound, like a big metal door opening or something,
We all know what we've heard what that sound people relate that to, so for our listeners and viewers, if they don't know, it has been related to a portal opening.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. So we were there by this alleged massacre site, it's supposed to happen in 82, and we were close by where the campground was at. And we parked up in the cemetery at the end of it. And I had some equipment set up, but I hadn't really had it set up to work yet. I had a parabolic microphone and a thing. And we just kind of looking around, kind of just doing a little pre-scouting, You walk down from the cemetery across over to the gate that goes into the old campground. And I didn't think much. I heard it, but I didn't think much about it. I'm used to working in a noisy environmental, industrial environment, So I heard it, but it didn't really register at the time, until my wife said something. Did you hear that? And then it dawned on me, yeah, I did hear that. I didn't think much about it, And but that's what it sounded like. Somebody, if you've been in any kind of a machinery or whatever, or heavy equipment and all, it sounded like somebody had took the bucket on the front bucket on a backhoe, and it was all the way down, and it just snatched the lever back and it slammed shut. I mean, that's the sound it made, like something.
Okay. Yeah.
something
Yeah.
metallic,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And that's what it sounded like. So we backed up to the back to the car and kind of stood around there and kind of developed, set up a defensive line, kind of, and kind of, and we didn't see anything. We sat in there for a while. Then it started raining, so we packed everything up and left. But it was
But you didn't have that recorded though. You didn't have that microphone set up though, right?
No.
That's the way it always goes.
I had the back of the car door. We got an SUV, and I had the back door standing up on it. And I had it up under it to keep it out of the rain, But I didn't have it quite set up yet. And so I did turn when we got back, and then it started raining, and we ended up leaving. But that's a pretty active area around there.
Extremely well. Wow. What Dewey, I want to say thank you so much. Like you've shared so much, and I think we could continue this conversation maybe in the future. Like I do want to have you back. Yeah, for sure. Maybe
it flies when you have fun,
Oh, it does. I know. That first story though, about 12 o'clock high, that was really interesting, and I definitely want to. I'm looking forward to seeing that documentary as well.
Oh yeah, it like I said, it should be out. It should be out before the end of the year. I'm thinking. I said I'll get with Seth and find out when he's going to plan on releasing it. But I know we're going to do he interviewed 3 witnesses the same day he interviewed me up there in Franklin.
Okay,
and he'd already interviewed the grandsons already, so he's got that done.
Yeah,
and then I said I'm gonna get with him and see when it's going to be released. But I'm looking probably around November. Now they wanted to publish my book for me.
Oh,
and I didn't like the way the contract read. I didn't want to give away my copyright and everything to the book.
Fair enough.
Give them full rights to it, to edit what they wanted to. I said no, I put this book together. It's my baby, and I'm attached to it. So I'm not going. I'm
of course, yeah. I can respect that. I definitely can respect that. Anything that you create that's yours, it should be yours.
Well, they've got a lot bigger fan base than I've got, things like that. Like my little old YouTube channel, I've only got like 218 subscribers. I mean, it's nothing big, but I need to get out.
We all have to. We all got to start somewhere, and
exactly.
Hopefully, I can get you a couple more on this one because we'll definitely. I'm only sitting just above 600. I just broke 600 here last week, so just making my way up. But that's only
you had to climb back up a ladder too, didn't you?
I had to. Yeah, 2.5 months. I made it to 600, so I don't think that's that bad.
Exactly, not bad at all.
No, I can't complain. Well, Dewey, I definitely want to say thank you, and for our viewers, stay tuned. I will put that trailer in when Dewey sends it to me. So, Dewey, yeah, it's about a couple of weeks before this will air, so not a problem on sending me that, and I will toss it in here at the end.
Yeah, okay.
All right, Dewey, I want to say thank you so much, and again, tell everybody where they can find you.
Said I could be found on my YouTube channel is a Dewster Paranormal Research and Development. I just changed the name of it. Used to be called Cryptids and Critters Paranormal. I changed the name of it because I'm going to try to stay away from the cryptids and the critters for a little while.
Fair enough.
And but I'm on I'm on Facebook, Cryptids and Critters Paranormal. My books are available on Amazon. Just a little search for Dewey Edwards. And my 10 books will show up there. Like I said, and if you don't want to fool with I have a Facebook page called Soggy Bottom Bookstore. It also has a little brief description of all my books and everything. I've got a link there where you can click on it and send me an email if you need to or whatever, to get, if you want a signed copy, but other than that.
Perfect. No, that's great. And Dewey, just fire all those links over to me, and I'll make sure I put them all in the show notes here, so
Okay,
everybody can find you.
I will do that. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds great. We'll do it again.
Yeah. All right, everyone. I want to say thank you to Dewey for coming on, and I really like that 12 o'clock high story. He thoroughly investigated that. Lots of information, and again, there's always questions, always cover-ups, and so could have been shot down by the UFO. We don't know. Most likely, hypoxia, lack of oxygen, caused the possible death, but we never know. And that radioactive, that sounds a little suspicious as well, and he went and checked it out with his Geiger counter, a little piece of the plane, and it was definitely letting us know that there was some radioactive there. Okay, so before we head out, I just want to say thank you, everybody, for coming along on this journey, and it's been really, really good, and just always make sure you keep your curiosity wandering and ensure the light remains lit.
Tick, tick, tick.